let's go ahead and get started. Well, welcome to Sacramento. Have you ever been to Northern California before?
Yeah, oh, Northern California, yeah. I was in San Francisco for a year, living at the sort of height of the dot-com era, so that was interesting. And now, of course, when I go back, the city changes so much just year to year. And it's my second stop in Sacramento. I was here a couple years ago, talking out of college, a little bit north of here. I was snowed in, well, the plane was snowed in, so I got 2 extra days here and got to walk around the city a bunch, so it's nice to be back.
Yeah, well, welcome. We're glad to have you back. So your last 2 books that, have been so acclaimed were wonderful, but they also dealt with like really heavy subjects and systemic racism and really important topics, but heavy subjects. Your latest book feels like a total detour in a really delicious way. Was it purposeful to go in such a different direction? And as an author, is that important to do sometimes?
Well, I've always switched around, so it's odd for me to do 2 serious books back to back. I usually do a book that's maybe heavy a little bit and then something lighter and switch off, maybe a short book and a long book. Before Underground Railroad, I did a zombie novel and a poker memoir and a coming-of-age novel. So skipping around is sort of my style. I think if you can do something, why do it again? And I've always tried to reflect my interests in my books. And I like serious books. I like more comedic material. And so the great thing about this job is if I keep going, I get to write about all these different subjects in different ways.
Anywhere your imagination chooses to take you. Let's talk a little bit about Harlem Shuffle and where the character of Ray Carney comes from.
Well, I had the genre first. I wanted to write a heist novel, and then who's it going to be? And I decided to have my main character be a fence, someone who deals in stolen goods. And I was doing some research, and I discovered that a lot of fences have a real front operation. They sell used furniture or appliances, and in the back they have all the dirty business and the stolen goods, and that spoke to a divided self. So I wanted to have Ray Carney, my main character, be someone who encompasses those different directions. He's an upstanding citizen, it appears, but he has this dark side, a part of him that's saying, let's do some crime, and he's juggling the two.
There's this wonderful thing about a heist. I mean, I was a huge Ocean's 11 fan. I love the concept of the heist as a trope. The thing that's great about a heist and somebody like that is you fall in love with the character and you're really rooting for them the whole time, even though they're kind of flawed.
Sure,
doing some
yes.
bad things.
I mean, they are criminals.
Yes, there is that.
Yeah. But it can go either way. They can plot and plan and pull off the heist and transcend fate, their destiny, by getting this caper together, or another genre. Another subgenre of the heist story, everything goes wrong. They plot and plan, and the safecrackers back on heroin, the wheelman's fighting with his wife, and so all these little sort of human elements come in and destroy their attempt to transcend their grubby lives. And what I like about Carney and Harlem Shuffle is that he does put the planning in, and sometimes he pulls it off. He does transcend his origins.
The book is set in 1960s Harlem. What drew you to that time?
I think, Underground Railroad was 1850s America. Nickel Boys was Florida in the 60s. I just wanted to be close to home, a little, not as hard. I don't have to imagine what kind of clothes they were wearing. And I love New York. I love writing about it in different ways. I was not alive in the 60s, so imagining my parents' New York was fun, and going to the New York Times archive and newspaper archives and figuring out the language, the political atmosphere of the city, and of course, since Carney is a furniture salesman, what kind of stuff he has in his showroom. It was all this really fun research.
Yeah. One thing we share in common is that our parents were in that area at the same time. My parents were immigrants from Ireland and ended up in New York in the late 50s and the early 60s. And it is interesting to hear the stories that they had from that time about what a magical place it was, regardless of what borough you were in. It was nothing but the hope of opportunity for a lot of people.
No, sure. I mean, in the late 1800s, Harlem was, pasture and starting to become buildings and communities, and it was a revolving cast of Irish, Italians, Jewish people coming in, trying to make it in the city, and then they move to the suburbs. They do actually climb the economic ladder, and then Black Americans from the South and the Caribbean come in. And so what I love about walking around Harlem is that there'll be a townhouse from 1870, and so many different types of people have come through this one piece of property with their dreams, moving in, starting a family, rising in the system, and then leaving. And that's still going on. Harlem is still has that great churn of people trying to make it in the city.
I read that your mother had some thoughts on some of the things that you mentioned in the books. You have to fact check, 'cause you're mentioning real places in the
well,
book.
I didn't realize that it was actually her New York, and so I would do this research about the Hotel Teresa or this ice cream store that was around in the '60s, and then tell my mother, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I was there all the time. Chock full of nuts. I would go there before I went to work." And I should have just asked her instead of doing the real the real work.
Isn't it funny to think about the resource that you actually had there?
Yes.
Yes. How important is fact checking? Even if you're writing about relatively recent history, people love to call people out on, you missed that one little detail.
No, yeah, I mean, you try to get it right. It's it can be anxiety producing. It turns out some of the people who are alive in the '60s are still around and have some opinions about different things.
Very strong opinions.
So I haven't gotten too many letters, but I'm sure there are some disgruntled people who are like, no, actually that restaurant was closed, or no one of a good upstanding Black person would never live on that street. So I'm waiting for the letters to come in.
You've won 2 Pulitzer Prizes. What is that like, and how has that changed the way you work, and maybe some of the opportunities that come your way?
The main thing is that I'm not teaching. I really can just write. It also means I travel more, so I've learned to write in hotel rooms and on planes as I go to visit foreign publishers in Norway and Finland and China. So, but having the time just to really think up my kooky ideas has been really nice. So that's the main thing. But it's still, a difficult job. And so I was trying to figure out things about my new project today, this afternoon, and it never gets easier. And if it did get easier, it wouldn't be worth doing. So.
Does that surprise people that it doesn't get easier? Is there an assumption by some that
I keep telling people, no one believes me. I mean, and after 25 years of writing, sometimes people get the book and sometimes they don't. And so I've written books where no one particularly cared when it came out, and I know that can always happen. So I just try to do my best with each book and not take it for granted.
What's the greatest thing about writing these days?
I think there's still the original joy of coming up with a character or a sentence or an image that you didn't know you were going to come up with that morning. And so there's a breakthrough in terms of, oh, the story should go this way, or this, these 3 words sum up this character in a certain way perfectly. And all that stuff is a really beautiful surprise. You never know what you're going to discover over the course of the day, or what will click and what will sort of fix the book.
What a great way just to look at life in general.
In books, not life, but yes, but in books it seems to work. I'm not so sure about the rest of it.
Great, well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. I'm looking forward to tonight.
No, it's going to be fun.
Thanks.